right, we have the New Orleans Saints next. Finished second in the NFC South to the Tampa Bay Bucks. Or no, did they finish first?
They finished first.
They
Bucks
did
were a
finish
wild
first.
card.
That's right. Well, the Bucks won the Super Bowl, so they get the first billing.
Yeah.
But let's talk Saints. Let's talk quarterback. The biggest news, some of the biggest news of the offseason, Drew Brees has finally retired from New Orleans after a historic Hall of Fame career. We will welcome him to Canton soon. But as of now, what will happen under center in New Orleans? You have Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill. Who do we think gets the start here between these two guys?
I have no idea. I don't think they even are leaning one way or another. I would be more confident from a fantasy perspective to have Taysom Hill as my starter because he got all those running fantasy points last season, and he was fairly good those last couple of weeks when he was the starter for New Orleans.
Yeah, I think you're right. For a fantasy option, Taysom Hill is like a poor man's, well, I wasn't say poor man's Josh Allen, but Josh Allen kind of, was absolutely dominant last year. So he's got some fantasy value for sure. And we saw a small but productive sample size. And the thing is, he played against the Falcons in one of those or two of those matchups.
Yeah.
And still did well. They have to play the Falcons twice a year. So if Taysom gets the reins, then he's playing the Falcons twice a year, and he's getting probably some pretty good fantasy days.
Oh, yeah.
And Jameis, on the other hand, Jameis is with Jameis under center, I think I like Michael Thomas a lot more than I would with Taysom under center. But I don't like playing Jameis as a fantasy option.
Yeah, I completely agree with that take.
Mm-hmm. He's great for wide receivers because look what he did in Tampa with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Vincent Jackson. But he himself was not a QB1. He was a streamer the whole time. Mm-hmm. Do we see? So let's say Jameis gets the reins. Mm-hmm. He's probably going to be a streamer for most teams.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't trust him at this point. Maybe if he's like great in preseason, maybe I'm not drafting him right now though. Maybe if he has a great preseason, maybe I'd scoop him up like the last pick. But
that'd be it.
I think it's better for Kamara and the receivers from a fantasy perspective if Jameis is under center. But individual quarterbacks, I think Taysom would be the more reliable fantasy starter.
Agreed. So if Jameis gets the reins, he's probably a streamer. If Taysom gets the reins, do we view him as, probably your second QB on your roster, or is he a streamer as well?
I think you can pick him up as your second QB on your roster. With that running floor, it's pretty safe to play him every week.
Absolutely. I 100% agree right there. I agree. So let's move on. We've talked at length about these quarterbacks. We got Alvin Kamara at running back. So right now, so last season, he absolutely destroyed opponents on the last fantasy game of the season with a 6 touchdown game.
Yes, it was monstrous.
If you played against Alvin Kamara, our thoughts and prayers are with you. But if you had Alvin Kamara, wow, you won your league. There's absolutely no way you lost that game. Right now, Alvin Kamara, his ADP is 3.1, or does that mean 1.3?
He's being drafted with the 3rd overall pick.
Okay, most of the time. That's what I thought. So Alvin Kamara, it's funny, on our last episode, I picked him with my first pick at the 7th spot. If Alvin Kamara is, there's a lot of malleability in these first, outside of Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, and probably Derrick Henry at the top 3.
It's weird. I'm looking at it right now. We got Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, Kamara, Barkley, Jonathan Taylor, then Derrick Henry.
Yeah, so there's after McCaffrey and Cook, there's some malleability between Henry, Kamara, Saquon, Taylor, maybe Chubb in there too. There's a lot of flexibility, so there's a chance if you're like the 7th spot, you could end up with Alvin Kamara. And what a person to end up with. We don't really go into depth with Alvin Kamara, do we?
No, if he falls to you in your draft, you're going to take him.
Absolutely.
One of the best fantasy players in the past 3 years.
Yeah, he's the running back 1, and honestly, he could be the wide receiver 2 on this team.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you take Kamara, are you looking to handcuff him with Latavius?
You have to.
Later. You think so?
Yeah, always. I think guys like Zeke, you want to get Tony Pollard. Kamara, you want to back up Latavius Murray.
Now, is that because of the goal line value that Latavius has?
I don't know. My kind of take is you're spending your first pick, right, on if you get Kamara, he's going to be the core of your team. If he goes down, you need to have that backup because you're pretty much screwed if you don't.
I mean,
and Latavius is a guy who's going to get all the carries. There's not going to be any split if Kamara goes down.
I mean, I agree with the theory there. He is the core of your team with your first pick. But Kamara hasn't really shown a lot of injuries. He's been pretty durable of a guy. So, but the thing is, Latavius will probably get picked up in like the very last couple of rounds. So it would probably be prudent to pick up Latavius later on because he can do it. He's shown early on in his career that he can be somewhat of a workhorse back. And especially if Kamara goes down, then you've got a very capable Latavius to pick up the slack.
Yeah. And you'll be able to scoop him up the last pick of your draft in most leagues.
Yeah, his ADP is 174 right now, so yeah,
that's
you'll be
14th, 15th round.
You'll grab him. Yeah, somebody will grab him. Let's talk wide receivers. Michael Thomas came off probably the worst season of his career due to a myriad of reasons. Injuries were one, a big one. Some off-field conduct issues. But here he is now, and his ADP is absolutely criminal for the talent that he is. He's 34.5 ADP. Does Michael Thomas return to dominance this year?
I don't know about what returns to dominance, but we're talking about a guy who was a first-round pick last year off the top of everyone's head, like no-brainer. 34.5, third-round pick? Yeah, you gotta... That's absolutely worth it. Yeah. The guy who has a ceiling that could be the best wide receiver in the league. So
absolutely.
Go for it.
And I think, so a lot of the thinking is, one, he had a terrible season last year. So that dropped his ADP. 2, Drew Brees is gone. So the checkdowns aren't going to be there as much. But I think what offsets those things are that Emmanuel Sanders and Jared Cook are both gone from this offense. That's a ton of targets, like 100 targets or more that are being vacated. Now, some people will fill those up, which we'll probably talk a little bit about Adam Troutman soon. But outside of Michael Thomas, you got like Traquan Smith, who has not really proven it so far. They got that return specialist. I can't think of his name. I think Dion something, but that's the whole thing. We don't know who's after Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas is going to have volume on his side, and volume is king in fantasy. I think Michael Thomas, he should finish as a wide receiver 1, mid to low wide receiver 1.
They're going to design plays to go to their 2 superstars, Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas.
Absolutely. I have to see a world where Michael Thomas finishes as a wide receiver 1 just based on volume. It has to happen. Has to. But, we're not really looking at Traquan. We're not looking at that other guy. I can't think of his name. So, Michael Thomas is the wide receiver to take in New Orleans. But there's another pass catcher that we should probably mention here, and that's Adam Troutman, the tight end who is taking the place of Jared Cook in this offense. And Adam Troutman was the Saints' first pick a couple of years ago. Do we see Adam Troutman as one of these sleeper tight ends that could make a push for a tight end 1 spot?
Absolutely, and that's because Jameis Winston's history in Tampa, he loved throwing to his tight ends, Cameron Braid and O.J. Howard. They were very productive fantasy tight ends, so if he gets the starting position, then I think Troutman becomes... You got to start looking at him in drafts. Start thinking about him.
Now, I think I think you're right. You're definitely right there. I think Taysom could probably support a middle of the road tight end as well. Sure. Especially because there's not that many mouths to feed. There's Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara, like we just mentioned. And then Adam Troutman has the ability. He has the skill set. He's a pass catcher back in college. His profile was great. He looked like a young Travis Kelce out there. I think Troutman has potential to finish as a tight end 1. Will it happen? We'll see. You gotta look at the first couple of weeks, but I think he's a guy that's worth one of those last round picks to snag. Say, hey, you know what? Let's grab Troutman. Now, I think other people in the fantasy community have been blowing up Adam Troutman's name, and his ADP has started to rise. He's at 155 right now, so he's going before Gronk in mock drafts. So, would you rather have Gronk or Troutman?
I'd rather have Gronk.
I would too.
Yeah, I have a lot more faith in Gronk.
I do too. Because we haven't seen it with Troutman. Now, It obviously could happen. But Troutman's a guy to definitely take a look at. Absolutely. The defense for New Orleans, now they have some superstars over there. Cam Jordan. What's his name?
The corner.
Yeah, the corner. The superstars that we can't think of.
The best player on the team I can't think of.
Lattimore.
Yes,
Marshawn Lattimore. Marcus Williams, I think, is another one of the safeties. Are we looking at one of those? Are we looking at the Saints as one of those defenses you want to pick up in your drafts?
Yeah.
They're worth the shot. They're definitely worth the shot.